all you need to know, the Bloomberg Quint podcast that prepares you for the day's business.
Good morning and thanks for listening in. This is the Daily Morning Update from Bloomberg Quint and I'm Alex Matthew. Today is the 29th of July. Globally, the big update to watch for is the rate decision by the US Federal Reserve. The US Central Bank is widely expected to give out a dovish statement later today. The Indian Railways back home said that it expects a loss of up to 35,000 crore rupees from its passenger segment in the current financial year as movement of trains continues to be strained amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Railways is currently running only 230 passenger trains with 75% occupancy compared with the more than 13,000 daily mail, express and suburban trains that it used to operate prior to the outbreak. Speaking of the coronavirus, based on the current rate of increase in the cases, we likely crossed the 15 lakh mark today. In the 24 hours to 8 a.m. yesterday, another 47,703 cases were added, which took the total to 14.8 lakh. The mortality rate is lower than many other countries, though, but there is concern about the pace of the ongoing spread of the virus. Now, later today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will meet with heads of large banks and non-banking financial companies to take stock of the economy. According to an official statement, the Prime Minister will join stakeholders from banks and NBFCs to discuss and deliberate on the vision and roadmap for the future. According to the statement, the topics on agenda for the virtual meeting include credit products and efficient models for delivery, financial empowerment through technology, and prudential practices for the stability and sustainability of the financial sector. In other news, the Enforcement Directorate has summoned Agrasen Gehlot, who is the brother of Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, in the ongoing probe into an alleged fertilizer scam. He has been asked to appear before the agency later today. In corporate news, Edelweiss Securities has questioned the rise of Reliance Industries. In a note, analysts at Edelweiss downgraded RIL's stock to hold from buy and said that the stock market has significantly and prematurely driven up valuations of Reliance Industries to levels enjoyed by famed FANG stocks in the US. In other news, Flipkart has started a pilot instant neighborhood delivery service in Bengaluru. It's called Flipkart Quick and it offers a 90-minute to 2-hour delivery across categories including grocery, mobiles and electronics as well as home accessories, according to a statement. In international news, Goldman Sachs Group has put a spotlight on the suddenly growing concern about inflation in the US by issuing a bold warning yesterday that the dollar is in danger of losing its status as the world's reserve currency. While that's still a minority view in most financial circles, and the Goldman analysts also say that they don't believe that it will necessarily happen, it captures a nervousness that's evident in the rise of gold. In fact, yesterday gold futures hit $2,000 even as the US dollar touched 2-year lows. Of course, it fell sharply from that point though. In international markets, US stocks slid ahead of the Fed's decision on rates. The Nasdaq declined 1.3% while the Dow and the S&P 500 fell 0.8 and 0.6% respectively. Markets in the Asia-Pacific region have started mixed, with the Nikkei 225 in Japan down nearly 0.75% and the other two early risers starting positive. With that, it's over to Agam Vakil for the trade setup for the day in India. Good morning, Agam. How are we looking today?
Good morning, Alex, and good morning, listeners. Well, the SGX Nifty Futures is currently trending flat, which means we are expecting a subdued opening this morning for Indian markets. But today is going to be a day where there's going to be a lot of earnings coming through, and we're also going to be discussing a long list starting with Nestle India, which did report a muted quarter and earnings below consensus expectations, considering its revenue for the quarter gone by grew just 1.7% at 3,000 crores. Its net profit did grow 11%, and with margins seeing a little bit of an expansion, but profitability below consensus expectations. Its margin stood at 24.5% against 23.7%. Moving on to IndusInd Bank, its net interest income grew 16%, but its net profit fell 68% on account of higher provisioning. There was some amount of stability in its net NPA ratios as a percentage, coming in at around 0.86% versus 0.91%. The moratorium numbers have come down as well to 16% of the total loan book from 50% as on April, and the bank board has approved a preferential issue of up to 3,288 crores, where promoters of the bank are also going to be participating in the fundraise. We move on to NIT Technologies, now known as Coforge, where it did post a relatively steadier quarter with revenues growing 10% year on year, but its net profit declined 8.8%. We also saw expansion in margins, and the company says that the profit was impacted because of higher employee expenses and an exceptional loss of 18 crores. The order intake for this quarter stood at $186 million with 3 significant deals secured. Moving on to RBL Bank. Well, we've seen a 27.5% growth in its net interest income at 1,041 crores, and its net profit rose 47.5%. So it's been a fairly strong quarter for RBL Bank, but not so much for Yes Bank, which did report a 16% decline in its net interest income and a profit down 60% year on year. Its provisions for the quarter stood at around 1,087 crores, with an increase in its GNPA ratio at 17.3% against 16.8% sequentially. Today, we are keeping an eye on Bharti Airtel, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, and Maruti Suzuki from the Nifty 50. And beyond that, we are also keeping an eye on TVS Motor Company, Phoenix Mills, Interglobe Aviation, and Colgate-Palmolive for earnings to come. And finally, a bit beyond earnings, we have Godrej Properties, which has approved an allotment of 1,000 crores worth of NCDs on a private placement basis. Now, these are just some of the stocks we can watch out for as we move into trade today. But don't forget to go through our morning edition of All You Need to Know, only on BloombergQuint.com.
Thanks, Agam. And as always, thank you all for listening in. That's all we have for you on this podcast. But as always, there's a lot more on the website, BloombergQuint.com. So don't forget to check it out. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed listening to All You Need to Know. Did you know that you can listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app? On the IVM Podcast app, along with this, we have a number of other shows which you think you'll enjoy. Listen to Cyrus Says with Cyrus Brocha as the host. Listen to Paisa Vaisa with Anupam Gupta. The Scene and the Unseen with Amit Verma, or Shunya One hosted by Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay and myself. Check out the IVM Podcast app to get more talk content that you will enjoy.